welcome to Sustainachella. All right, yay, panelists. You guys can welcome. Yeah.
Great.
All right.
Hi, welcome everyone.
Much. Thank you so much for joining us, guys. We really appreciate it. My name is Flavia Tognoli. I'm the Sustainability Manager with the City of Miami Beach. We also have here as presenters today, Yanni Pineda. Yanni, you want to say hello?
Hi, everyone. I'm the Senior Sustainability Specialist with the City of Miami Beach. Welcome.
And also Betsy Wheaton. Betsy, want to say hello?
Hi, everyone. Betsy Wheaton. Thank you so much for coming and joining us today. And I want to note that I have a very special background. This is Hurricane Betsy from 1965.
Ooh, nasty. That's a trouble hurricane. All right, and guys, I don't know about you, but yesterday there were thunderstorms, like hardcore thunderstorms in my house. This morning was raining, so I know what that means, that hurricane season is here. So I'm super excited to learn more about hurricane preparation, because if you unfortunately are like me that leaves to prepare at the last minute, all the information provided will be very beneficial to you. So we have a pretty packed Sustainachella, but before we move on, Yanni, what do you think? Let's warm up the chat.
Definitely. I'm going to send out a poll. We want to know a little bit more about everyone that's here with us today.
All right, cool. And yeah, folks are still joining, so while folks join,
there you go. Do you guys see it?
Yeah, we can see it.
Perfect. So we want to know where you guys are joining us from, whether this is your first hurricane season, and how prepared you feel.
All right. So let's give some minutes here for folks to respond. You can see lots of folks from Miami Beach, some folks from Florida, another city. Which other city are you guys from? Where are you guys joining from? Let me look at the chat. Let's see here. Oh, aloha, Hawaii, yay. Honolulu, awesome. Where else, guys? Where are the folks that are outside of Miami Beach? Where are you guys from, or even outside of Florida? Is this your first? Wow, the majority, 82%, 83% of the folks that responded so far have been through several hurricanes. You guys are hurricane pros now. And do you feel prepared for a hurricane season? Let's see. About 44%, somewhat. 44% definitely. All right, come on, guys, let's answer. We have about 71% voted. So, Yanni, because of the time, I think we start wrapping up now. Let's share the results.
Sure.
Okay,
all right.
So here we go. Dennis, you are curious. So 55% of the folks attending here today from Miami Beach. Unfortunately, the folks on Facebook Live, are not joining on the chat here, but yeah, so we don't know where they're from. Maybe they're from all over the place, right? And the majority of folks have been through several hurricanes, and 46% thinks they're definitely prepared for a hurricane season. All right, I'm sure Sherry's super proud to hear that, right? Sherry, very excited. And you're muted, Sherry. Just FYI. All right, so Yanni, if you want to stop sharing the results, then we'll keep moving. And Yanni, that's all you, all the housekeeping.
So for those of you who are joining us for the first time, you'll probably noticed that we disabled your videos and your microphones. That's to avoid any funny business, so we don't see anyone trying to Zoom bomb us. And if you have any questions, we recommend that you use the Q&A box to make sure that your questions aren't lost within the chat. And when you do use the chat, please be sure to check off everyone or all panelists and attendees. We want to know what your thoughts are, and we want everyone engaged through the chat.
Awesome, thanks, Yanni. And now, what's coming up on June?
So we're excited to announce that our next Sustainachella workshop is actually going to be on sea turtles. So sea turtle season actually started in April, and we'd like everybody to come and learn a little bit about sea turtle biology, what makes them awesome, and how you can protect them. So that's on Tuesday, June 16th.
All right, stay tuned, guys. Very excited. June 16th, Sea Turtle Day. Woo! Awesome. All right, and now I'm going to introduce our amazing partners and amazing panelists. I'll start with Sherry with Emergency Management with the City of Miami Beach.
Good afternoon, everyone. Happy to be here.
Thanks for joining us, Sherry. And Irene, Emergency Management with Miami Beach. And you might be unmuted, Irene, because I cannot hear you. Yeah, here we go.
Hey, I've already started.
Here you go.
Okay.
You're good.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Irene Galinas, Emergency Management Technician from the City of Miami Beach.
All right, and we have Kevin with Leon County Emergency Management.
Yay, good afternoon. Welcome and greetings from Florida's capital county. Thanks for having me today.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us, Kevin. And Maria with UF IFA's Extension, University of Florida.
Hey, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us. And we're going to learn a little bit about food safety.
Awesome. And Dennis with the University of Hawaii Sea Grant NOAA.
Hello, everyone. Glad you could make it. And we're going to talk a little bit about hurricane science.
All right. And also our first celebrity in Sustainachella. Ryan.
I don't know
Sorry,
how.
Ryan, I had to do it.
No, really happy to join the conversation. So thank you for the invitation. Celebrity status, that's questionable, but look forward to sharing my views with you and learning a lot in the process this afternoon.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. And guys, before we move towards the presentation, yeah, today it's kind of a special day. And Yanni, what is today that is so special?
So today we're actually sending out a special shout out to our CEO of Hype, Les. He's here today and he's celebrating his birthday, and he has been to every single Sustainachella that we've held since April. And he's definitely our biggest fan, and we appreciate having him here with us.
Woohoo! Happy birthday, Les! Happy birthday, guys!
Happy birthday, Les!
Happy birthday.
See, Les, everybody loves you. All right, awesome. All right, guys, now I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and Ryan, you can start sharing your screen right now.
Oh, wow.
And
Okay,
take
we
it
can
over.
get right to it. All right, so let's take over here. All right. There's that. There's this. And we are off. Okay, good stuff. Thanks again. I took off my party hat. I'll put it back on as soon as I'm finished presenting. Actually, to do a favor to everybody, I'm going to start my timer because it's very dangerous to give a TV meteorologist the floor without giving them any time to work from. Otherwise, I'll fill the whole hour. This afternoon, very interesting. I mean, what we're going to talk about, it's more than getting flashlights. It's more than stocking up on batteries. It's more than buying tarps and duct tape. I want to get through my part because seeing some of the other presentations that are still down the line, I think are far more interesting. We're going to wrap this up for you as a participant and viewer today with, I think, a nice slice of the entire preparation process and the things you really do need to know. And not all of it is rooted in weather. However, we are now into the middle of June. And we actually started to get our interest in hurricane season back in April and then in May when all these seasonal forecasts started to be released. And it's kind of the preseason, if you will, the things we think about before we get into the season. There's a lot of forecasts out there. It's true they're interesting and they get us thinking about the season, but I think they get too much emphasis. Now, scientifically, they're really fascinating. I think it's really cool research and there is some validity to it. But as we were all preaching this idea of preparedness, the seasonal forecasts kind of should live in their own little box, and I'll tell you why. We're looking for an above average season. With the traditional forecast that we use from NOAA, with their range, and they always issue a range, from 13 to 19 storms, 6 to 10 hurricanes, and 3 to 6 major hurricanes. Now, on top of that, Colorado State, which has already updated their forecast 2 times, in April and in June, they're now calling for 19 storms for the season, 9 hurricanes, which just is painful to talk about, and 4 majors. So considering we've already had 3 systems named this season already, 2 of which have made landfall in the US, we can look at this in another way. And I'm going to tell you, according to the Colorado State forecast, we've already had 3. We've got 16 more potentially to go. So these seasonal forecasts are really ramping up the potential that we're going to see an active season. But it's not just the Colorado State forecast or the NOAA forecast. On average, all these different forecasts, which I said there's too many of, 21 as a matter of fact, they're all averaging out to about 8 hurricanes for the upcoming season. So that's a lot. But I want to filter through the noise and try to put these hurricane seasonal forecasts aside. The basics that we're all looking at are the same. What's going on out in the Pacific and the Atlantic? Are the water temperatures warm where we don't want them warm and cooling where we don't want them to cool? And that's absolutely what is happening. Across the tropical Atlantic, it was a fairly warm winter, and now moving into the summer season, temperatures are running above average. In the equatorial Pacific there, in the box on the left-hand side of the screen, you can see the blues there, the water already cooling down. So we're trying to weigh El Nino and La Nina. In terms of tropical forecasting and tropical season, El Nino is our friend. It provides more wind shear. La Nina is a more conducive environment for tropical entities to develop. We want to get away from La Nina. If we just use the red line, not to bog too much down into the science, but if we're above that, we're maybe trending neutral or El Nino. But if we're below that, we're trending a cool neutral, if not moving into La Nina, which is where we want to stay away from. So there's a 60% chance that we're going to have a neutral season, but that decreases as we get deeper into the fall. Of course, our peak season, generally we would call a season within a season. We're really on guard mid-August through late October. And the chances are that we may move away from neutral and move into La Nina. But in the end, it doesn't matter what ends up happening. It's how we're getting ready for what's to come. That's the most important part. These neutral seasons, they can and they do produce active storm seasons. Anybody who works in emergency management or works in meteorology or works in public service that was in Florida in 2004 and 2005, those were neutral seasons. And we know the power of the tropics, and those years were just benchmarks for what can absolutely happen. 4 Florida landfalls in 2004, the most named storms in a season in 2005. Those are seasons we'd like to forget. So with these forecasts, they speak to the total activity in the Atlantic Basin. They say nothing about landfall, and what we need to prepare for is what would we do and how will we be ready if in fact a hurricane or a tropical storm makes landfall in South Florida. Hurricane Andrew, the A storm, 1992, that's all it took. And it only took the first name system of the season to go into the history books as a storm here in South Florida. So you know we live and work in Hurricane Alley. This map, this plot of all the historical storms passing by South Florida doesn't even consider what we saw in 2016 when Matthew came by, 2017 when Irma came by, 18 when Tropical Storm Gordon developed right over top of us, and then Dorian, which sat offshore just last year. Friends, these are all close calls. I do want to draw attention, since it's a more recent storm, Irma in 2017. That's the storm we say, I was ready for that storm. I prepared. I made it through a hurricane. Unfortunately, friends, you did not make it through a hurricane. We had sustained tropical storm winds here in South Florida with hurricane gusts. We did not actually endure a hurricane. And so I'm glad that you prepared for that and we made it through, but here in South Florida, we need to be ready for a hurricane to strike. And so I worry that you think that your preparedness level from 2017 is enough for each season. It's not. We need to be ready for the worst. And unfortunately, 2017 Hurricane Irma was not the worst. We have to be ready for all the entities, and no matter how they come towards us, whether it's Bonnie or Faye, rainmakers, wind makers, surge makers, storms that don't look very pretty, storms that grow right on top of us as Katrina did in 2005, the area, the impacts that extend far beyond where the center of the storm is going, that's what we have to take into consideration and prepare for. So as some of my other colleagues here will talk about, damaging winds, storm surge, flooding rains and tornadoes, these are all things we have to consider and get ready for. And so you're going to learn a lot about that this afternoon. We're so much better off now than we used to be. We have better satellite data, better radars, better forecast modeling. But like today, we have better communication methods to get everyone ready and get everyone on the same page and provide the information for you to be better prepared. So in closing, I just want to remind you that going into every storm season, using your trusted resources for weather information to help you get prepared and to know when you need to take action and to know when it's time to be ready for a close encounter, if not an unfortunate unfortunate event where we would have an opportunity for a hurricane strike here in South Florida, that you're getting the right information, you're getting it timely, and you have enough time, and you allow yourself enough time to take action on it. So I invite you to take down my information on Twitter, or to even send me an email. I feel free. I'll be glad to answer any of your emails about this season or any other seasons, or maybe anything that you need to help you get prepared for this season and in the future. But I appreciate the opportunity to speak this afternoon, and I look forward to hearing from more interesting topics here that don't bog too much down in the science. So with that, I will turn it back over to you, and I'll be involved here in the chat, and I certainly invite any of you to email me with any questions. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ryan. We really appreciate it. All right, Irene, are you ready?
I am ready. Absolutely.
Go for it.
Welcome. And I want to thank Ryan, because one of the things he said that's very important, not all hazards are weather related. So I need for you to keep that in mind. Yes, in Florida, we do have hurricane issues, and I know they do have that in Hawaii, but I do want to have everyone keep that in mind. It's not just weather related. So let's get going with it. On one, let's try that again. Didn't do that.
Be informed.
You have to go back to the first slide, Irene.
I get to be the one that messes up this time, right?
That's all good. It's Sustainachella. Don't worry. And yeah, that's what I was going to say. If you want to stop sharing the screen, go to the first slide and then share it. It's all good.
Well, first I got to find the. I found it.
Awesome.
All right, so we're going to start from the beginning.
From the beginning. Okay.
That's lost part of my time. Okay. Ryan was telling us what is to come, what possibly may be down the road. So now we need to get you personally prepared for any emergency that may be coming your way. And that, it all starts with you, personal preparedness. You need to make a plan, build a kit, and stay informed. Now, Ryan talked about the stay informed. I'm going to talk about the build a kit aspect of it. I have a little video here we're going to see.
Miami Beach. Be informed. Have a plan. Make a kit. Remember these 3 important points to stay safe this hurricane season. Have a kit. Put together a disaster supply kit, including a flashlight, batteries, cash, first aid supplies, and copies of your critical information. Make sure to have enough supplies, food, and necessities to last at least 10 days. And don't forget your pets. Plan for them as well, and make sure they stay comfortable and safe. Plan and prepare now so you can be safe during a storm. For more information, log on to www.miamibeachfl.gov. Miami.
Okay, so what kind of warning would you have? As we're talking about it won't be just weather, it could be something else. So you've had your warning, whatever has happened has not been resolved. So what are you going to do? You're going to make a decision to shelter in, or you're going to evacuate. And that kind of talks about what type of kit you should have ready or available. And here's an example of some kit items to put in your kit. I'm going to show you quickly what some of the kits that we have. So hang on. There we go. Okay, so what I have here is a family box that you'll be putting most of your family stuff in. The video said, don't forget your pets, but we also have some other special people in your house, maybe, which would be your children, and also any special needs individuals. So you need to make sure you got your medication available for any of those. Quickly, some other things is, I bet you don't have one of these anymore. This is a non-electric or battery operated can opener. That's one. Sustainability, use your own water containers that you have in your house. Woo! Woo-woo! Right, we talked sustainability. Have a city map, have a map of where you live, because if it is a hurricane and it devastates the area, you need to know where your routes are to be able to get in and out.
And your GIS may not work.
and your GIS may not work. Thank you, Sherry. And then have some type of radio, weather radio. This is an excellent one. It's a weather radio. It's solar charged, flashlight, has all sorts of fun little things with it. You know, you can also have a phone charger. Most importantly is have a waterproof box, okay, for your very important documents. All right, and also as we're talking about, you know, your kits, make sure that you are Semper Gumby, which means that you're flexible with what stuff that you put in there. Thank you, David. I thought I'd do a shout out for that. So let me get back on there. Where am I at now? Okay, well, that worked. Awesome. There we go. Now, we also are going to need to include this year, you may want to consider including what we call an extended first aid kit, but now it's actually pandemic. So ensure the extra things you have in your kit now are hand sanitizers, gloves and masks, cleaning supplies. These are some of the things you should consider. And also, you should consider more than one kit. You should have one at home. I have mine at home. I have it actually in the corner of my bedroom. Some people have it in their garage. Some people have it in their closet, in the front door. That's some of the areas. You should have one at work, because what if you're at work and something happens and you need to evacuate and go somewhere, and one in your car. So those are the 3 areas you should have a kit. I know that was very quick discussion on that. So if you need more resources, you know, this is my list of resources. And if you have any questions, I'll grab those online for you. Here we go.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Irene. And now we are going to go to Maria. Maria, you can start sharing your screen right now if you'd like. There you go.
Okay, we're almost there.
Got it. You're on it.
Okay, so we get to talk about food safety. So why think about food safety during a hurricane? Because nothing could be more miserable than being sick during a hurricane. So when we think about food safety, we not only think about ourselves, but we have to think about every family member in our house, from our youngest to our oldest. When we think about food safety, we can be very miserable. So here's a question. Foodborne illness is not a common occurrence, is it? Or is it not? Well, actually, in 2018, the Center of Disease Control reported that 1 in 6 Americans get sick from eating contaminated food. So it is a concern. So the first thing we need to do when we think about food safety is to always start by washing your hands, washing them frequently. And I know you've heard all over again about the happy birthday song, but you sing the happy birthday song or the ABC song twice. And when you rinse your hands and go to dry them, make sure that that towel is clean, or you're using paper toweling. And then think about our water, because we are going to be sustainable. So you might purchase plenty of water containers, but then again, you might think of using food grade containers. And if you do, you'll need to wash them with soap and water and sanitize them. And you don't just pour a bunch of bleach into the container to sanitize. You sanitize by placing 1 teaspoon of non-scented household bleach for 4 cups of water, or 1 quart. Rinse thoroughly, and don't ever use old milk containers for drinking water. You'll never clean out the fat residue, and you'll end up contaminating yourself with the foodborne illness. Think about drinking water. If your water does become compromised, how will you handle that? Well, you can boil water continuously for 3 to 4 minutes and aerate it for more flavor. And also you can chlorinate it with unscented bleach and let that stand for 30 minutes. So what's that proportion look like? For 4 cups of water, it's just 2 to 4 drops of unscented bleach. And if it's a gallon of water, it's 1/8 of a teaspoon. And you'll let it stand for 30 minutes. And you'll see that I highlighted unscented, because scented bleach contains products that are very harmful. So what about sanitizing our surfaces and equipment? Well, again, we create another sanitizing solution. For a gallon of water, we're going to use a tablespoon, again, of unscented bleach. And that solution will stay with good integrity for about 5 days. But make sure that whatever container you place your sanitizing solutions in, that you have them properly labeled. But say you don't want to use bleach and you rather have other options. Well, we have 2 other options for you. You can either heat white distilled vinegar or hydrogen peroxide, place them into a container and pour and use that as a product to sanitize your surface. Let it stand on the surface for about a minute and then wipe it off with a clean paper towel. If you choose another option, again using white distilled vinegar or hydrogen peroxide, pour room temperature into a spray bottle, but that has to sit on your surface for about 10 minutes before you wipe it clean. Now remember, with both vinegar and hydrogen peroxide, when you heat them up, it's going to produce an unpleasant odor, but that odor is not harmful to you. But you want to test any sanitizer you use on an area that's unseen to make sure that no fading or discoloration occurs. And never mix hydrogen peroxide and vinegar together. So myth versus fact. My refrigerator is set at 41 degrees, so I know my food's safe to eat. Is it? Well, actually, your refrigerator should always be set between 35 and 40 degrees, and your freezer at 0. How do you know? Well, keep a thermometer in both your refrigerator and your freezer. Now you've lost power in the storm. How do you know how long your food is safe in your refrigerator? 2 to 4 hours, so not very long. And in your freezer, if your freezer's packed full, 48 hours. And if it's half full, about 24. So again, the important thing is to remember to keep that thermometer in your freezer and refrigerator. So if you do have a thermometer, the freezer temperature, if it goes up to 40, you're still safe. It's the 41 and higher that you have to throw your food out. If you don't have a thermometer in your freezer, but you still see ice crystals on your food, you're good to refreeze or use immediately. But don't ever rely on something producing an unpleasant odor or appearance. So set your refrigerator ahead of time. Before the storm even comes, set your refrigerator and your freezer to a lower temperature. Instead of 35 to 40 degrees in your refrigerator, put it down to 33 degrees. Take all the fresh meats and poultry out of your refrigerator and put it into your freezer. And think about freezing plastic water containers ahead of time. A word of caution, open the lid, spill a little bit of the water out, but then you'll have nice huge ice cubes to help keep both your refrigerator and freezer full. So first, eat things out of your refrigerator. Second, then go to your freezer items because those will last 2 to 4 days. Then last, go to your non-perishable foods. So here's a myth. Freezing foods will kill harmful bacteria that can cause food poisoning. Well, although freezing does prevent bacteria from multiplying, the only way to kill bacteria is to cook food to the proper temperature. So if you don't have a chart that indicates what an internal temperature should be for a food item, just think of 165. If you place your food thermometer inside a food internally, and it reaches 165, you know you are safe to consume that food. Don't consume any food without knowing the proper internal temperature. So it's all been said, stock up on shelf-stable foods. What are shelf-stable foods? Foods that are non-perishable. They don't need cooking or refrigeration once opened, and they're easily to prepare. But don't forget foods that appeal to family members, foods for special dietary needs, baby foods and baby formula. And also consider foods that are rich in protein and nutrient dense to maintain your strength and energy. Think about single servings and snack size because you want to avoid any leftovers. And avoid foods that are high in sugar and high in sodium. Even though some of those foods are delicious, like pies and cookies and crackers and chips, they also make us more thirsty. So in the end, after a storm, assess all food and food preparation areas. Assess your equipment to make sure that no rainwater has entered your home or flooding, and decide what to keep and what to throw away. And when in doubt, we do throw it out. And just remember, in the end, don't be complacent. Now is the time to start. Okay.
Awesome, Maria. Awesome. Good. Wow, I feel embarrassed. I would leave my food in the fridge for a long time, way more than 4 hours. I'm like, not sure what I was eating was really good. So anyway, we definitely have some questions for you. But guys, we're going to go over all the panelists first, since we have a lot of panelists today, and then we'll go back to the Q&A. And Kevin, if you want to start sharing your screen, and you're also muted, so you can unmute yourself to talk to us. And you know what? While he does, I'm going to ask you the question that I have here, Maria. Michelle was wondering, well, number one, I think having the thermometer is key, right? And she was asking about the temperature to keep the refrigerator at. Is that, and I know you mentioned that, but I guess she's confused regarding, probably confused about, you know, the 2 to 4 hours would be to watch which temperature, sorry.
So 2 to 4 hours is it. 4 hours would be the maximum. That's why it's a good idea to keep that thermometer in your refrigerator. If your refrigerator goes up above 40 and reaches 41, then those foods need to be discarded. So really, it's just a window. That's why we recommend placing those ice blocks in your refrigerator and turning that refrigerator down a few degrees so that you can get to 4 hours. And remember, every time you open the refrigerator, you are allowing heat to come in and the cool air to escape.
Awesome. Thank you, Maria. And Kevin, I see you're ready. So all yours.
All right. Can you hear me now?
We can.
All right, thanks. So, yeah, here in Leon County, North Florida, this goes a little bit off what Irene was talking about building your supply kit. It's a big deal for us. We really believe that individual preparedness is community preparedness. And ours is all focusing around the disaster bucket. That central picture there you see, it's part of our Build Your Bucket campaign. And down to the lower right, our last year's Build Your Bucket event at Florida A&M University. We engaged close to 3,000 citizens in our community, both Leon County and surrounding counties, with face-to-face preparedness messaging, talking one-on-one about what it takes to be ready and survive, not just hurricanes, but any disaster that Florida may face. Actually, we're up on the state line up against Georgia, so we did have a few Georgia residents that came down, so we were able to be cross-state and cross-county. We weren't able to do it this year like we did in the past because of the COVID-19, but it's a big deal for us. These disaster supply kits are very important. Something else we do, some of the other pictures in the far left and that one in the upper right, we actually do like a citizen engagement evening with public safety. We bring members of our citizenry in to see what goes on behind the scenes in the Emergency Operations Center. A lot of times we hear the terms emergency management or the EOC, and it's kind of this mythical place where people don't really know what's going on inside the brick building. So it's a chance for citizens to come in. They learn a little bit about being prepared here. They have a chance to meet with some of the partner agencies that are involved in disasters, not just our government responders, but other organizations like the Salvation Army, the Red Cross, our local food bank, our local 211 center. And then in that upper left picture there, a little bit of Q&A goes on, and one of our citizens won a NOAA weather radio so they could stay informed and get all those weather warnings that happen throughout the year. One thing we've learned through our recent hurricanes, we were affected in 2016, 17, and 18 by Hermine, Irma, and Michael. Like Ryan said, it wasn't full-on hurricane. We caught just the edges of the hurricane, so ours are really strong tropical storm force winds. But people were telling us, what we hear is, you never hear, I guess I should say, a citizen say, "You communicated too much with me during the disaster." So we do a disaster survival guide every year. We have our mobile application where citizens can get updates from the EOC 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, whether it's kind of routine flash flooding, severe thunderstorm warnings, or super serious stuff like hurricane warnings and evacuation orders. The citizens are able to connect with us, get the latest information so they can make the best decisions about their safety and what they need to do to stay safe. We interface with media with interviews. We have emergency information websites, and that blue thing in the upper right there, that's our newest initiative. That's Billy the Bucket. He's our disaster preparedness mascot, and he made his debut this year. He was going to be at our Build Your Bucket, but we weren't able to do that because of COVID. So he's spreading the message about building your disaster bucket online. You can follow him at Real Billy Bucket on Twitter. I put it in the chat, his handle there. And he's going to help, particularly with our youth, but he's going to help spread the message about being prepared all year long. So for those that aren't in Florida, stay informed with trusted sources. FEMA has a fantastic mobile app you can download. You can get real-time alerts from National Weather Service, emergency safety tips, and learning about disasters. Particularly if you live in a community that is affected by a disaster and there's a disaster declaration through FEMA, you'll be able to get all the information about how to apply for assistance to begin that process of personal recovery. Great app for those people that live outside of Leon County. I'd urge you to download it. For Leon County residents, our Citizens Connect app is the app for you. And then when it comes to hurricanes, official source is for the hurricane outlooks, hurricanes.gov, the National Hurricane Center. Emergency managers, that's our go-to site every morning during hurricane season. I check it in the mornings, check it at night, check it all day long. Again, trusting your local meteorologist, Brian, and all the others that are on TV. You guys do great work, help us get the message out. I know we work very closely with our local TV meteorologist up here in the Tallahassee market, and you guys, you're part of the team, and anybody listening, make sure you follow the station you prefer in your community. But I can tell you the TV meteorologists are there with us to make sure that the people are getting the right messages to stay safe. It's all about that trusted sources of information. When we're talking about the information, so what's important, there's a lot of stuff that's going on, and then we're going to hear more about storm surge, so I won't get too much into it. But with respect to evacuations, in the state of Florida and all the coastal states, really, we're focusing our evacuations on the storm surge risk, and that's that rise above the normal tide that's associated with an approaching tropical system. Depending on the strength of the storm and the size of the storm, it's going to push in at different heights or different inland extents. So that's the type of information that we as emergency management are going to make the evacuation decisions on. And the slide, the right part of the slide, the little pie chart there from the National Hurricane Center, that's the causes of death related to tropical cyclones from 1963 to 2012. See, nearly 50% of the people that have been killed during tropical events were killed by storm surge. It's the #1 risk. It's not the wind. A lot of times we get real worried about the wind, and not that that's not a hazard. We do need to take that serious. But getting away from the water, running from water, evacuating from water is going to be very important to saving lives here in Florida, all the coastal states, when it comes to tropical situations. Once you get inland, hiding from the wind, finding a sturdy structure, getting in the lowest floor interior room away from all the exterior doors and windows, that's oftentimes going to be the best bet. For people in inland communities, again, you want to make sure you do some of the prep work. Have a home wind mitigation inspection. Make sure that all of the components of your home are mitigated against wind, that the roof is connected to the walls, and the walls are connected securely to the foundation. Consider shutters or the plywood coverings for windows to protect that building shell. Have an arborist come and check for dangerous trees in the yard. Make sure any dangerous limbs or trees are cut back by a licensed tree firm. And then if possible, consider a whole home generator. Keep that electrical power going. So those are the big three things when you're thinking about homes and staying safe and evacuating. in Florida, know your zone. That's the big deal. Whether you live in North Florida or Central Florida or South Florida, you can go to your local county, your emergency management agency, and you're going to find the Know Your Zone maps for the different places, the different counties. You can even get it through the state's emergency management agency. And in many places, you can go to the map, punch in your address, and it'll zoom you right to it. And it'll tell you what level of evacuation zone you're in, or if you're not in an evacuation zone for storm surge. That's as important to know as knowing in which zone you're in. So really encourage folks to look that up and know which zone they're in. So when it's hurricane time, and you hear Brian on the news relaying information from emergency management that Miami-Dade Emergency Management has issued a Zone B evacuation. You've already done your research, and you should know if you're in the Zone B or not. So that's the type of stuff we'd really encourage everybody to look at, whether you live in Florida or the Carolinas or Texas, wherever along the Atlantic or Gulf Coast. I guess even Hawaii. Know your zone and know if you need to evacuate due to storm surge. Again, if you go, some things to think about. I'm going to start on the left side of the screen here. This is just recent information. We saw this during Tropical Storm Cristobal just last week. That top image there, the upper left, that was the probability of tropical storm force winds, and that was 2 days before landfall. So you can see there's a lot of guessing games still at 2 days before landfall about how far and which direction you should go. Had you been somebody that was living in the Mississippi or Louisiana coast there, you knew you were going to get strong winds at the coast, and I don't have it, but there were some storm surge warnings in that area. This would be a helpful map to help you understand which direction to go. It may be worth going to, Panhandle of Florida or over there into Texas. Going north out of Louisiana, though, you still see you had a high probability for tropical storm force winds. So going north might not have been the best direction to travel. So using the information that's available from the Hurricane Center is very important to make decisions. The little image below it is the rainfall estimates. And again, that 6 to 10 inches of rain over Louisiana and southern Mississippi, that would be another decision-making tool you'd want to have on hand. And looking at that, going all the way along the I-10 corridor to the Florida Panhandle, heavy rain. So, somebody that might have been in the impact zone there in Louisiana might want to consider heading west towards Texas as a safer place to go if they had to evacuate. So on the right-hand side, just a couple of things back to that sturdy structure. If you're going to evacuate, mobile homes, highly wind vulnerable. We have an image here of a couple that are been affected by the winds of a hurricane, one blown off its little foundation. Definitely urge folks in wind vulnerable housing to seek stronger structures to evacuate to during a high wind event. And again, down to the bottom right, that's an image of a hurricane shelter. Oftentimes people see on the news these places, they've got the lines of cots ready for people. I would say that that's not often the case during the hurricane phases. Those images are typically after storm passage. This is more the reality of a hurricane shelter. It's a school gymnasium floor, no cots or few cots, if any. So you can see in this image, there's a little green, somebody's disaster supply kit. So when you're building your disaster supply kit, if shelter is your ultimate destination, want to make sure you have those personal amenities that's going to make that rough time as comfortable as possible. Obviously, we wouldn't recommend shelter as your first option. Certainly you want to work through all of your possible places to go. And, if you do not have any other options, the shelters will be there. But again, just wanted to highlight it's going to be a tough experience, so make sure you prepare well with your disaster supply kits. But to summarize, you want to stay informed, get trusted information, know your zone, stay safe from the storm surge impacts, and just in general, stay safe. I know we're focusing on hurricanes, but in Florida, all year hazards. We have severe weather all year long. We have our fire seasons and kind of the spring and fall, and then obviously summer hurricane season. So again, those three things: stay informed, know your zone, stay safe. And I think that's what we've got here from Leon County. I'll turn it back to
Thank you so much, Kevin. We appreciate it. Awesome. And Dennis, if you're ready to share your presentation, please, all yours. And here we go. And Dennis, I don't know if you're muted or if you're just not speaking. Oh, you're muted. Yeah, you have to mute yourself, Dennis.
Okay,
There
can
you
you hear me? Flavia, could you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, good. So here's my contact information. I'm with University of Hawaii Sea Grant in Hawaii. A lot of the information we're going to talk about is from the homeowner's handbook. So we have all different kinds of hazards in Hawaii, including hurricanes. So we're going to, because we're talking about hurricanes, we're going to talk mostly about this, the material in the book about hurricanes. So here's the book, Homeowner's Handbook, started in Hawaii. It's in 10 states and countries now, all through the Gulf Coast. And Florida actually did one, and they're in the process of updating their book. But I would like to go over a little hurricane science and talk about the triple threat from a hurricane. So we're talking about waves or storm surge, water, rain, inland flooding, and wind. Okay, here's Hurricane Iniki hitting Kauai. In the northern hemisphere, all the winds are rotating counterclockwise around the eye. And there's a left front quadrant and a right front quadrant. And in the right front quadrant, the rotational speed of the hurricane, the winds, and the translational movement of the hurricane add together. So we have 120 miles per hour roughly plus 30 miles per hour. We get 150 mile per hour winds in the right front quadrant. And in the left front quadrant, they subtract, and you're only getting 90 miles per hour. So there's a huge difference in forces on buildings from the right front quadrant to the left. So every hurricane's different. So even if Poipu was in the right front quadrant, or people in Waimea were in the right front quadrant, in the left front quadrant here, if the hurricane shifted over and they were in the right front quadrant, instead of experiencing category 4 force winds, they'd be experiencing category 1 force winds. So it's a huge difference. Also, in the right front quadrant, that's where the winds are blowing onto the shore, and that's where you get your storm surge. This is for a hurricane coming from the south. If it was coming from the east, the storm surge would be north of the eye wall, and we saw that in when Sandy made landfall on the East Coast. It made landfall near Atlantic City, and all the area north New Jersey, Manhattan got really hammered by the storm surge. Areas to the south, say from Atlantic City to Cape May, very little storm surge. And then the last threat we're talking about is the rain. So there's going to be a lot of rainfall associated with these systems, and typically accumulates along stream systems like here. So you got to know if you're near a flood zone. Okay, so I'd like to just compare. This is an area on South Oahu, and you can see the flood maps. You look up the FEMA Map Service Center to get your flood maps. Here's your red wave zone and your blue stream inland flooding. And then we also have NOAA storm surge maps, okay? If you look at the storm surge maps, this peninsula right here is not safe to shelter in place. Whereas you look at the flood map, and it is okay to shelter in place. But here, the stream is not okay to shelter in place, and the storm surge map indicates it's okay to shelter in place. So that is why you really need to look at both. But it's important to wait from instructions from your local emergency managers first, because they'll know if this is, for example, this map is a worst case scenario, if it's a category 3 or 4 hurricane, or if the right front quadrant is going to hit this area. So always wait for your local emergency management first. Okay, so similar to in Miami, here we have Miami River and Miami, and here your evacuation zones, mandatory, they could be mandatory evacuation zones. Here's A and B, and if you compare it with the flood map for the area, same area, you can see the same river. You can see there's inland flooding all the way up the river. So just because this map indicates that there could be some storm surge impacts and it may be safe here, you still got to look at your flood zone. Okay, so here are newer maps on your Miami-Dade County website, and you have now what are called storm surge planning zones. And again, we compare this map to the flood map, and we see that the flood risk goes all the way up the river. Here, you follow your storm surge planning zones, and A is associated with a category 1, B a category 2. You follow that up, you see that although the flood risk is the same, the storm surge risk decreases. So if you just look at this map, and it's primarily for planning purposes, but people should look at all the maps. If say you're in there's a category 2, you may think associated with zone B, you may think you're in a safe area if you're over here, but you may still have flood risk. Then the third thing to consider is the wind, because we considered storm surge and flooding. Think about wind. Think about the story about the 3 little pigs and the big bad wolf, straw, wood, and stone. I think most houses in Miami are pretty strong, but the basic concept is you can only shelter in your house if it's strong enough for the wind that you're going to encounter. And here's a single wall house, double wall house, and a stone house. And here's unsafe, marginal, good, better, best. The goal is to move your house to the right through proper maintenance. For single wall houses or lightweight wood frame structures, you can only strengthen your house so much. We cover how to strengthen your house, put it in good condition, add hurricane clips, add window protection, and so forth. We also cover a little bit about the continuous load path connection. Kevin spoke about that briefly, tying the roof to the wall and the wall to the foundation. That's a continuous load path. If you don't have the load path, especially this roof to wall connection, that's the weakest part of a house, and the roofs could blow off. And it's possible to retrofit a lot of houses with hurricane clips. And there's new information in the book on how to try and complete the load path with structural screws as a retrofit. The last thing we want to cover is window protection. During a hurricane, there's going to be a lot of flying windborne debris. You do not want the envelope of your house to be breached, because if there is, there's going to be internal pressurization, as shown on this diagram to the upper right. So you want to protect your windows, either plywood, some type of panel system. Do not open your windows to try and equalize pressure. Do not use masking tape. That will not work. You need to protect the windows and create a complete wind and rain resistant envelope around your house. Okay, and in the book, finally, we cover all different types of window protection. The trade-off is cost versus time to deploy. And finally, we provide a lot of resources for resources for home retrofitting. Okay, so that's all I have for today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dennis, and thank you for all the panelists. Amazing, guys. So much information. I feel much more prepared now. Yeah, but definitely, Irene, I need to prepare the kit, just like you said. So guys, we have a few questions here. You guys have been amazing, answering a lot of questions. And let me see here. Well, Mike is asking to provide the links to the maps that Dennis is referencing. So either Sherry or Dennis, if you guys can share, that would be great. And then there is a really good question here. I saw that a couple of you already answer. And Sherry, I don't know if you want to answer that one or if anybody wants to jump in. how could we prepare for hurricane season if we have a chronic patient who needs care and a lot of hygiene, special diet when we live in Miami Beach, which is often declared a risk zone? And I see you're sharing your screen. Here you go. Look at you, super prepared. And you might be muted, or we can just not hear you. Hello? Nope, we cannot hear you. Oh, maybe now? Nope. What happened? You were so talkative earlier, Sherry. I know. I don't know what happened.
Hey, this is Kevin. I might be able to help with
All
this
right.
one. Obviously, I don't know all the ins and outs of Miami-Dade County, but being a Florida County emergency manager, I think we're kind of on the same page. And definitely want to coordinate with your local emergency management agency. Before COVID-19, we've had special needs registries during pre-disaster. People with medical needs could contact their emergency management agency and find out about getting on the registry. I think in a case like this, it'd need to be a very similar process. I do see 311, so I'm going to make an assumption that Miami-Dade County, you guys use your 311 program for that to check in and register for any special evacuation assistance with your local emergency management agency. But at the basic level, I would say check with your local emergency management agency. We're working very closely with our county health departments to develop our evacuation plans, whether they involve special shelters or special parts of shelters where people can go with that may be COVID-19 positive. We've worked with our health departments for even today, if there were people that were COVID-19 positive and they needed somewhere to stay. They might not have been able to stay at home because they have vulnerable family members at home and it's just not safe. There is a possibility for finding what we're calling non-congregate shelters. Agreements at hotels where somebody might be able to stay for the 14-day period till they can get rid of all the symptoms. So every county is a little different, but contact your local emergency management agency. And it looks like in Miami-Dade County, calling 311 would be that portal.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Kevin. I appreciated you jumping in. And Sherry, maybe later on, if you can join us, we'll definitely, come back to you. Yeah, we can hear you. Dennis, I know you have another workshop to go. So just wanted to, before we keep going, to appreciate you joining us today all the way from Hawaii.
Microphone.
Thank you so much. Here you go, you're back.
Oh, now you hear me. Okay.
Now
Well,
I can hear you.
Kevin said most of it. Yes, 311 is the county answer center system, and it is directly tied into our EEAP program. The EAP program is, the county provides specialized transportation. I can tell you that on Miami Beach, our EMS division in the fire department supplements that. So if you really have mobility issues and need to be transported via a gurney, or via a rescue vehicle or an ambulance, we can arrange for that as well. The different types of shelters that are provided, if there are medical shelters, medical facilities that can provide things like dialysis and medical monitoring. And if you're electronically dependent and you have to be on constant, like either oxygen or something that requires continuous power, these places are set up to handle that. That's also wellness checks are done. The city of Miami Beach goes a little bit further because we do tend to have some people that do refuse to evacuate, even if they pre-register for this. So our fire department personnel visit the homes of the people who refuse to evacuate. This is specifically our elderly population and our special needs population to make sure that everything is okay. Now that the skies are blue, now is the time to register. All you have to do is call 311, tell them that you want to register yourself or someone in your family, or you're a caregiver for someone and you want to put them on the list. This does not mean that someone's going to come knock on your door and drag you away and take you somewhere that you don't want to go. Twice a year, they do a phone call status check, and they will find out if you still want to be registered, if you're still interested in being registered, if you are, are still in a situation that you feel you need special evacuation assistance, and you remain on the list. Again, it's 311, and it's a really
Awesome.
easy way to register.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sherry. We really appreciate it. All right, guys. So before we go to Kahoot, Yanni, are you ready to share the video? We're going to share a quick video that our amazing urban forester asked us to share, given that, we are in hurricane season. So what do you need to know about tree trimming? And
Can you guys see the video?
Yeah, you need to maximize
Yes,
it.
we see it.
All right.
All right, go for it. Thanks, Yanni.
Hurricane season is upon us, and we need your help in protecting our urban tree canopy. We recommend reaching out to a certified arborist and having the trees on your property pruned prior to hurricane season. We also recommend not pruning your trees right before a storm, as loose tree fragments can be picked up by high winds and become hazardous flying debris. For more information on how to maintain and prune your trees properly, visit us at mbrisingabove.com.
All right, so you guys know, make sure to trim your trees. It's hurricane season, has already started. So if you have not done yet, go do it. All right, so Dennis, I know you have to leave. So again, thank you so much for you joining us. Or if you can stay, even better, just hang out with us.
I'll stay out for another 3. I'll stay for another 3 minutes.
Yay! All right, so we are going to go to Kahoot right now. And Yanni, if you wanna share your screen, so we start Kahoot. And for the folks that are joining for the first time, you guys can join via your cell phones. You go to kahoot.it, and I'm going to put the link here, kahoot.it. And Yanni, we're not seeing your screen yet. And then Yanni will show up the link. And you're also muted, Yanni.
Yeah, sorry. There's music coming from my computer and I don't know from where, and I'm trying to figure out which window it is before I can share the.
Okay, if you want to send me the link, I can also share too, Yanni.
Okay, 1 second.
And for the folks that are here, we have a lot of folks that join us just to play the Kahoot. I know, all the Kahoot pros. So guys, if you guys have any tips for the Kahoot, please let us know. And then let me go back a little bit to the Q&A while we wait. And I think, Kevin, those questions are for you. Whether Leon County is hosting virtual events in Leo or Fill Your Bucket, and they want to see the bucket list.
Yeah. So we are doing a virtual version of our Build Your Bucket. It's going to be some videos about things to put in there. I don't have a time on when that's going to be posted. It's going to have its own website and URL. I think you can link to it, though, from our Disaster Survival Guide's virtual presence, which is www.haveahurricaneplan.com. I think there will be information about the virtual Build Your Bucket. As far as Billy Bucket's bucket list, I'm not sure everything that's on his bucket list, but our bucket list, things that should be in your bucket, you can find that on www.haveahurricaneplan.com. Awesome. And follow Billy on Twitter, though, if you want to find out about his bucket list.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You guys ready?
Yanni, we are just seeing the classic page.
Yeah, I was waiting for Kevin to finish before I went on to the next page.
So go for it.
Awesome.
Very good.
Okay, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
All right, so for those of you who are joining us for the first time, make sure you grab your phone and you go to the URL that you see here, kahoot.it. And what you're going to do is you're going to put in the PIN that you see on the screen, 5629262. And so what we're going to do is we're going to quiz you on everything that you learned today. And points are based off the correct answer and how fast you answer. So the top 3 scorers at the end are going to receive a prize. I'll share my email within the chat so you can reach out to me. And then we'll work out your prize later on. And I guess we'll give everybody about a minute to join and then we'll get started.
Yeah, and panelists, you guys can join too. I don't know if you guys will be able to to win because our Kahoot pros are pretty pros. They're pretty good at it.
All right, it looks like we have a good number of people. I think we can just get started, right, Claudia?
Sure.
Should we get started?
I think we have still people joining. Oops, here we go. We just have more folks joining. But let's do it, Annie. I think for the matter of time, let's push it on.
Okay. First question. To make sure you're prepared and know where to go during a storm, you should. Awesome. It looks like almost all of you got that right. Good job. We have Danny in the lead. Next question. Hurricane season is from June 1st through November 30th. True or false? Yep, it's definitely true. We have Stormy in the lead, then MD Bay, and in the suburbs. Next question. What is the best way to prevent a foodborne illness? Correct, all of the above. And we have in the suburbs in the lead. Next question. The best sources or source for weather information is? Both Brian Phillips and our your local city social media is a good source for weather information. We have in the suburbs still in the lead, and Les appeared out of nowhere. What quantity is considered sufficient emergency water?
All right, last one, guys. I want to see who gets in the top 5.
Yep, that's correct. It's actually, well, I see a couple of you actually got it wrong. It's 1 gallon per person per day for 1 week. And the winners are Bucket, Les, hey, happy birthday, and so I'm going to put my email in the chat so that everybody can
Yay! Awesome, guys. Did you guys get it right, girls?
Yeah.
Questions?
I guess one of them.
Okay, you're getting there. You have to learn with your dad.
Yeah. So.
Awesome. And guys, I don't see any more questions in the Q&A. So now it's the time if you guys have any other burning questions. And if not, we'll definitely, you got all the contact from the panelists. I want to thank, first of all the panelists for joining us today. Irene, Sherry, Maria, Kevin, Dennis, Ryan, all of you guys and Nikki for getting everyone on board. Also our team, Betsy, Yenny, Michelle, thank you so much for all the support. And just going to share my screen here. Another woo!
Happy birthday, Les!
To our chief here, and then panelists. I don't know. This is Sustainachella. You guys can say whatever you want. Do you want to say a few words before we wrap it up?
So thank you. Thanks for having us. A lot of fun.
Awesome.
And if anybody is really, really interested in getting more involved in preparedness and keeping your city safe, you might want to consider joining a community emergency response team, a CERT team.
Thank you, Sherry.
You're welcome, Irene.
Love that idea. Love it. Love it. So you guys saw it. And how do they do that? What do they do to join, Sherry?
In Miami Beach, you can call 305-673-7736.
All right, one more time, 305.
That's 305-673-7736.
Awesome. All right. Well, again, thank you so much, panelists, for joining us. This was amazing. Thank you so much, folks, for joining us. We really appreciate, and as usual, wrapping up with a note on love and gratitude. And we'll see you guys on Tuesday. We have Sea Turtles. It's Sea Turtles Days on Tuesday. We'll have a lot of cool panelists joining us to talk about sea turtles. So see you guys there. Thank you guys, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Bye.